Hey, it's Dominic D'Angelo. It is rumored innuendo. It's a Friday, TGIF. Robert might be here. I haven't heard from him, so he might be here. We'll see. But I'm here with you in a cafe. I'm actually at Margot Cafe in Pittsburgh. So gonna talk a little SmackDown, gonna talk a little Tony Khan, and gonna chat with all of you guys here for a little bit. Thank you all for tuning in. Hopefully it's not too loud. Let me know if there's a lot of noise pollution here, so hopefully it's not too bad. But Kimmy Star says, after morning all. Triple E says, what's up? What's up? Legs Louie in the house. Happy Friday, R and I. Wanna Breeze chimes in. Hello, R and I. Tonight we will find out who was on the phone with Randy. Will we? I hope so. We might not. I don't know. Will they tease that even more? We'll talk about that in a second. And then we got Wrestling Old Head. Good after morning all. Happy Friday. If TK bought WWE, he would have hired someone to book the big heavyweights correctly. Question mark. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. Let's do some what ifs possibilities. Maddie Marijuana joins on. Friend of the show, RVDTV.com. What does a sign on and out of business brothel say? Beat it, we're closed. That's great. Yes, Maddie. Yes, thank you for doing that. Dom, it looks like you were talking to us from heaven with the sun behind you. I know, I was like, oh man, the sun is really shining. I could sit on the other side, and you'd get probably much more clear. But this is where the jacket lady came from, actually, was this cafe. I have not seen the jacket lady here. There are a lot of people here, though. Caspian says, my aunt's cat used his claw to take a notch out of my leather jacket. Razor ever do that to you? Razor, I don't think's ever destroyed any of my clothing. He's actually pretty good with that part. He does have claws, and then they're hard to trim. So he's got claws for sure. But yeah, he's never really destroyed any of my actual clothing items. Old jacket lady, the one that got away, right? Man, just tugging at my heartstrings. All right, let's talk about this fun little article before we get to SmackDown here, and that's Tony Khan trying, allegedly, well, no, confirmed, I guess, tried to buy WWE when it was being sold. I think there was a lot of rumors and innuendo at that time that he was one of the bidders, and sure enough, it got confirmed. This was thanks to Brandon Thurston, WrestleNomics and Post Wrestling. Actually, shout out to Brandon. Me and him used to run into each other during media events and stuff. Maybe I'll see him at WrestleMania. I don't even know. Maddie says, I imagine Razor was Salem the cat voice. I always gave Razor the voice of Matthew McConaughey. So if you want to voice Razor, imagine Matthew McConaughey talking for him. All right. But this news about Tony Khan. Khan's bid came through Base 10, the entity used to operate All Elite Wrestling. The complaint, originally filed in the Delaware Chancery Court shareholder lawsuit in November 2023, recently unredacted, confirms Base 10 was among the 4 companies that submitted formal offers to acquire WWE following Vince McMahon's return to the company in January 2023. So Base 10's offer was $76.83 per share, valued at WWE approximately $6.9 billion. So that's what Tony Khan was going to offer. It was the lowest bid by a considerable margin. KKR offered between $90 and $97.50 per share. Then we also had Liberty Media, and then obviously Endeavor, who won the whole bid and became TKO Holding Group. Wow, could you imagine? I think it would have been a good thing if Tony Khan bought WWE, and here's why. We know how the AEW product is, and we know that it's kind of all over the place, right? And there's not a lot of control to certain aspects. Tony Khan is in charge. He's the number one guy. All that stuff is happening. But if you put a structure around him, like WWE has in place, I think it would be a pretty good collaboration. Especially, too, I'm sure Tony Khan and Triple H would actually get along with one another to an extent. I think from a professional relationship, I think if Tony Khan was savvy enough to keep Triple H on board and not really usurp him too much, but learn with the collaboration, I think WWE would be in better shape than it is now from a creative standpoint, let alone, okay? Business wise, that's another story, okay? Because I think there's a lot of elements that, Endeavor's such a huge thing. Ari Emanuel has all these connections. But you think about it, you not only have Triple H, but you have the other Khan and Nick. Now, if they could go exist, that's one other question because, Nick Khan's taking some digs at Tony. And so who knows how that would kind of pan out. But if you are trying to get in the element of all that, I do think Tony Khan bought WWE, somehow scooped it up. I think it would have been a pretty good thing for wrestling. I think another thing though to consider would be where's the competition. So AEW, whether WWE admits it or not, and no matter how far behind AEW is, it's an alternative voice, and it is like pretty good way competition because you're trying to be better than the other one, and I think that's a big aspect that was missed with Vince McMahon buying WCW. Like Vince was the only guy, the only show in town. You had TNA, and TNA, right? We know how TNA acts. And March 2010, where they were supposed to really compete with WWE and go live, it wasn't handled. And so, AEW's been the first legitimate competition WWE has had. Now, they've fallen way behind. But when you think about Tony Khan and his love for wrestling, you combine that with Triple H and his love for wrestling, then you combine the structure that's already in place with WWE, a corporate, what's the word I'm looking for, public company. That's a good thing for pro wrestling, and would be a good thing for WWE. So, I think it would have been a good move. All right, let's see what people are saying here. Jamie actually says, have we learned nothing about Vince buying WCW? Yeah, exactly, Jamie. We need competition for better wrestling product, and neither is good at the moment, but you need evil villain in your comic. Hold on, I think she finished. In your comic. Oh, I see what you're saying. But you need an evil villain in your comic. Yes, I agree. I can't be spot on with that one. El Juggalo. Thanks, man. So, Dom, do you think Exodus Pro Hold the Line is getting streamed tonight? That's a good question. Let me follow up on it. I will have to text EC3, but that's the hope, right? Should be on studio1sports.com tonight. Wrestling Old Ed agrees with Cammy Star. My thoughts exactly. AEW is a huge opportunity to capitalize on WWE's dip in interest right now. 100% they do. I let Robert talk a lot yesterday regarding Dynamite. I thought Dynamite was okay. Mixed bag, like I said. But when I look at Raw and then I watch Dynamite, Dynamite's still a better product right now. And if Tony Khan could tighten the ship up and kind of get more of a focus, not try to cram so many storylines into one show or into one match, then they got to get the pace fixed up. And I think they got to hone in on their stars like they always have needed to do and haven't really done. So, but right now, I don't think there's a debate. I think AEW's putting on a better television product than WWE currently is. So, yes, TK should have saved a few of those returns and surprises for Dynamite for starters. I agree, wrestling old head, totally. Cammy says, I don't think TK's ego would work with others. Not sure if it's, I guess it would be an ego, right? But I do see what you mean. I think, Tony is the sole proprietor of AEW from a creative standpoint and everything. So he's got all say in everything. Would he be able to play nice with somebody like a Triple H or in that business environment? I just think that the product might be better creatively. Like, we're talking numbers, which Tony Khan doesn't really talk. I mean, he does, but that's not his bread and butter, I don't think. I think that creatively, W would be a better product at this moment in time than it is right now. A lot of fun stuff going on, but to Tammy's point too, competition is key. If you don't have that, that's an issue. Let's see. Yeah. Could you imagine TK telling Levesque he's got from here? I'll book both companies by myself. My God, that would be an issue. Like, yeah, what would you do? You'd have that'd be a weird thing. What would you do with AEW if you bought WWE? Would you keep them two brands? I guess so. Right? But there is no competition. Caspian says, of all things, Tony Khan known for his creative is not what I consider to be his strongest asset. That actually called his weakest point. I agree with you. I agree with you. That's why I mean, like, if you bring Tony Khan into the WWE ecoscape, it kind of hones in Tony's vices, what what needs to be controlled. Because, like, creatively, he's all over the place, right? So if you have something to hone that in, and maybe that WWE corporate structure would do something to help him out. So I do think it would be a better product because, yeah, you have Tony Khan who's got this encyclopedia knowledge for pro wrestling history and stuff like that. But then you have Triple H who's done it before, done the, you know, it was trained by Killer Kowalski, loves Harley Race, but has been a part of the sports entertainment realm for over 30 years. So I think a lot goes to be said with that. Jeff Henniger says, but would Tony listen to guys like, yeah, Triple H or anyone else? He has a lot of great minds to have and are around him. It seems like he does what he wants. Exactly. That is the issue. Like, Tony Khan has set a precedent for not listening to legends that he's had around him, you know? So who knows? There is the story, too. I don't know if it's confirmed or not, but Bret Hart was backstage like early on in AEW. He's the one that presented the championship belt. And Bret wanted to help Tony Khan work with talent and help build them. Like, that's what, but Tony didn't want that. He wanted Bret to be an on-air character, I think. And Bret was not interested in doing it. And how crazy is that? Well, yeah, I mean, Maddie, this would be the bread and butter here. Paul Heyman would be a good owner of WWE CW. Yes, he would have been a good one. Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you got Paul Heyman controlling everything, you're in good shape. No doubt about it. TK meeting Vince McMahon would be good television. Yes, sir. Yes, it would. Tony Khan says, if TK succeeded, you think we'll see the price gouging and ads plastered all over the ring? I think there's a chance. Yeah, I do think there's a chance because Tony Khan, NFL minded too. It's all about business, all about making money, all about marketing. Yeah, you totally would because you see they got DraftKings on the ring apron. Yeah, you definitely would see it. I think for sure. The Juggalo, the El Juggalo says Tony Khan's honestly a fraud in pro wrestling. If he's going to straight up dismiss the Juggalos, who've been a big part of wrestling since the 90s. Yeah, he should bring the Juggalos in. That's the thing. The Juggalos have been all over the place in pro wrestling. You gotta keep that trend going. And if you're a major company like that, yeah, it'd be neat. I'm all for the oddities. I definitely enjoy JCW. There was a clip I saw of Big Vito calling Ken Anderson a jerk off. And talking about how he sucked up to Bruce Pritchard. Great stuff. If you guys haven't yet, check out JCW. There's a lot. They're going to be in Vegas. WrestleMania. Wrestling Old Head. If TK did buy WWE, do you think TK could try to unite AAA and CMLL? I'm curious which companies he would work with. What companies would be pseudo number 2? That's an interesting one. I mean, there's a lot of bad blood, I think, between AAA and CMLL. I think you could try. I don't know if it would necessarily work, right? But maybe so because, you know, if you own AAA, you're the owner. It's no longer the original owners of AAA, so maybe you could make it. Or maybe they would just push out CMLL because they already have AAA. I could imagine that. Who knows? Caspian. Tony wouldn't take Road Dogg when he was available last time. If he's smart, he should take him now. 100% he should. He really should. You know? But, you know, if Road Dogg was frustrated in WWE, I bet he would be frustrated in AEW. You know, same time. But, you know, you're right, though, about the egos. It's all put in place. Dang. Interesting, interesting. All right, we'll preview SmackDown real quick. Then I'm gonna get out of here because I don't want any chaos in the background. Here, let's go. Oh yeah, rest in peace to Chuck Norris. Maddie says, "R.I.P. Chuck Norris." We'll have to go ask. Yeah, good point. I will definitely have to ask. Chuck Norris never like was huge major. Not that I didn't. I preferred didn't prefer Chuck Norris, but he just never was on my radar except like Walker Texas Ranger commercials. Doing Price is Right. But like, yeah, I mean, I just saw a clip online. I think 1994 Survivor Series. He was the enforcer of the Undertaker Yokozuna casket match or something, and he like super kicked Jeff Jarrett. So Chuck Norris definitely has some wrestling tie-ins, but wrestling is for sure. Yeah, definitely an interesting individual. 86 years old. What a run! What a run! Uh, let's see. Get all your questions here. What if TK sold to AEW? Who would be a good buyer? Need fantasy book Raven on it. Raven will be good. I mean, he's got the creative mind. Here's me fantasy booking. How about Kevin Nash? That'd be good. Any thought? Oop, here we go. Jeff Hanger, any thoughts on the Ricochet situation? Yeah, you know what? Something you shouldn't have said. Tweeted on there, I think. You know, I get the heel being a heel persona and everything, but you're dealing with social media, and you know we know how reactionary that is, and you know I think that you just opened a can of worms with that. You know what I mean? So yeah, I just don't think you should have said anything with that. There's a there's a level of being in character, and which I think he was, and Robert can attest to that too. That you know, he actually said on Working Stiff, which is now up, that he knows, obviously knows, good friends with Ricochet, knows him personally, and that's not who Ricochet is. He's just playing a character on there. So, but like at the same time too, you got to understand what you're dealing with, and that's social media, so that will get blown up. And yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts on that. It does kind of give you a little bit of perspective on maybe how to utilize social media, because I do overall, from a grand scheme of things, I enjoy it when wrestlers stay in character on social media, but I don't. There's also, I guess, something you do have to consider how that social media world reacts. Then it spreads out when it hits the news. So, kind of my thoughts on that one. Legs Louis says it shows Drew versus Jacob tonight, but I assume that has to end in some no contest finish. Yeah, you'd imagine like a pull apart thing. Oh yeah, jeez. Cammy brings up this. Dennis Rodman to Hall of Fame. Why? The celebrity ring is wild. I think Dennis is a good induction, though, honestly. He really, it was Mark Madden that just tweeted out that he helped continue the hot run of the NWO. I mean, he got, no doubt about it, he got eyes on the product even further. And if you're inducting a celebrity, I think Dennis Rodman's a great one, to be honest. Like, he was a great rebounder. And you know, you think about when he like stood up the NBA for WCW, everything. Yeah, I think he's a great celebrity induction, more so than others. So I'm all for Dennis Rodman. Caspian says Chuck Norris was not a large man, but he was a feared man. Yes, yes. Maddie agrees with me on Kevin Nash. Tony Gong says Ricochet needs to learn to scroll past negative comments. For sure, I think you can't be, if you have a high profile, you can't be as embedded in social media. I think it's counterproductive for several reasons. What we're talking about now, but at the same time too, to an extent, you lose your air of mystery. You know, I think what makes stuff in wrestling so fascinating is the unattainability. And when you are so accessible, you're not unattainable. And I think that takes away a little bit of that cool element for people sometimes. So I'm with you on that. Maddie says, now that guy who always asks to ask a Ricochet question could pay RBD triple at Ricochet in 2K26. That's right. Can't remember that person's name. You're right. Let's see. Oh, that's a great point. Still no Cyndi Lauper. They should reach out to her for the Hall of Fame. I can't believe she's not there. That's crazy. What in that regard, Cyndi Lauper should be the number one. I would put her ahead of Dennis Rodman, no doubt about it. That's unbelievable. She's not in. Maddie says SmackDown will be sick tonight. Jeff says, I understand being a heel on social media, but go back and forth with random fans doesn't really help your character. Yes, exactly. It doesn't make you look good. It does. Like, if you pick and choose your moments to respond, that's one thing. But yeah, if you're going back and forth and you're just so much in the weeds, it does not help. It does not help character. It doesn't help the product. And, like, I don't think Tony Khan suspended Ricochet because he wasn't on Dynamite. I think he was doing it for self-preservation, for Ricochet and for AEW. I was thinking about that. Like, it's just like, if Ricochet didn't tweet that, I bet he would put it on Dynamite. Like, I really do. I honestly do. As chaotic as Dynamite was. Yeah, let's preview SmackDown real quick. Yep, Drew McIntyre versus Jake Fatu. It's got to be some sort of schmoz going down here, right? You can't give that match away. Then you got Lash Legend and Nia Jax. They're teaming up to go against the Bella Twins for the women's tag team titles. So Nikki and Brie Bella should be kind of fun if you like the sports entertainment aspect. And yeah, I mean Lash and Nia have to retain, I would have to say. We got Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga versus Damian Priest and R-Truth for the tag titles. So 2 tag title matches. All right. I mean, Damian Priest and R-Truth they're trying to pair them up pretty good, so let's see if they can catch anything. Randy Orton will appear. I'm sure we'll get a phone call thing, and should be interesting. And then we got Kip Wilson calling out Jelly Roll. Should be a fun entertainment segment. Finally, we got the Motor City Machine Guns going up against Fraction. So a lot of tag matches. We'll see. They got some work to do, that's for sure. I do think Randy Orton's probably the most captivating figure right now in WWE, maybe all pro wrestling at the moment. So see how it goes down. Should be a big night though. Everybody's seems like the chat's pretty intent on SmackDown. So let's see. Tony Gong says on Young Rock, Becky Lynch played Lauper, and it was pretty impressed with her Long Island accent. Yeah, she was good, right? She was good to see her up there. Pretty cool that she was able to do that. It says Archie should do the open February March tonight. We'll see how it goes. Cool. It's been good. Glad I was able to cover some stuff with you here or do. And yes, today, studio1sports.com. There might be, like the Juggalo was saying, the El Juggalo was saying, Exodus Pro tonight on tonight's stream. But we definitely have the Bruno Sammartino panel from Bruno Forever event that I attended last year. That is up, going to be in full at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Shane Douglas was on that panel, Stan Hansen, Daryl Sammartino. Some great insight on not only Stan Hansen breaking Bruno's neck, but Stan Hansen getting Vader's eye out. And then on top of it, we have Bruno Sammartino and how Daryl details how Bruno made the connection with Triple H to get in the WWE Hall of Fame. He also gives Bruno's thoughts on how Bruno felt about Hulk Hogan. And that's very interesting, too. So there's that. There's another interesting story, too. Shane Douglas talks about ECW. And, how he mentions, too, how Bruno and Dominic Canucci help influence ECW. It's an interesting little take. So be sure to check that out. That's at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today. Bill Apter was actually the host of the panel, so it's really cool stuff. They're actually doing Bruno Forever 2 this April. So if you're in the Pittsburgh area, actually I put the link in the description of that for tickets. So check that out as well. But yes, this weekend I will be at IWC 25. So I'll be on a commentary team with Austin Carnes, and you can check that out. Marcus will be in action. My brother Marcus will be in action. He'll be challenging for that IWC High Stakes Championship against Wes Barkley. And not only that, but Jerry Lynn will be there, friend of the show, and Mark Madden will be there as well. So check it out. And I'm going to close it out here. But thank you all for tuning in. I'll see you here on Monday. Best of luck in your future endeavors. And let's enjoy SmackDown. Shh.